Every single commercial production shoot ignites a multi-year trailing liability that expands well beyond the wrap date. This maps the complexity generated when a Cycle 1 session fee is paid. It spawns a matrix of future obligations, branching into 26 residual cycles, 13 media types, and 35 usage types. This data then hits the conflicting rules of 4 major unions. Tracking this data across siloed spreadsheets typically forces a reactive, error-prone forensic exercise. Maintaining union compliance requires moving the data into a strict, linear pipeline. Achieving mathematical fidelity requires replacing manual tracking with a continuous, state-dependent data architecture. Day 1 parameters must strictly dictate Year 3 algorithmic outputs. The Unified Payroll Platform, or UPP, solves this by parameterizing these distinct union rules into a single, deterministic calculation engine. Automation remains impossible if pre-production estimates, on-set time cards, and post-production market logs live in isolated systems. By unifying these stages, UPP architecture forces every subsequent residual cycle to automatically inherit the verified mathematical actuals recorded during Cycle 1. The platform functions as a live computational model, connecting today's on-set punch-in to a specific, union-compliant check 3 years down the line. This 3-layer estimation system establishes financial visibility through a strict data architecture, starting with a wide base. This represents individual talent estimates, locking in bedrock parameters like union classification, session type, and 13-week holding fees. An AI engine suggests appropriate fees at this individual level. These parameters roll up into the middle layer, session-level aggregates, capturing media and territories. Finally, they fuse into the pyramid's single peak, the master project budget. Using this bedrock data, the AI residual estimator calculates a complete 3-year projection of total residual liability. It bases this entirely on the agency's actual media plan. Because this pre-production data is structured correctly, it converts seamlessly into binding talent offers. The starting coordinates for the algorithm are now permanently set. When production begins, the engine shifts from theory to execution. Cycle 1 of the payroll engine processes the actual session fee. The on-set session report captures physical reality. Real-world variables, overtime hours, meal penalties, and stunt bumps feed directly into the payroll calculation. At this stage, the system permanently links the base session fees to the talent's contracted exclusivity premiums and union fringes. A multi-role approval workflow and AI validation system check the math. This locks the entry and prevents unverified data from entering the long-term pipeline. Cycle 1 establishes the permanent, audited baseline from which all future algorithmic degradation will be calculated. The approval of a Cycle 1 entry arms the automation system to calculate Cycle 2 and beyond the moment market usage logs are recorded. This shows the core exponential decay algorithm governing residual payments. The value decreases each cycle based on the union's decay percentage. We then apply media multipliers, like a streaming bump, and territory multipliers, scaling the payment for worldwide audiences. The engine completes final adjustments, deducting union-negotiated credits, adding any performance bonuses, and withholding configured taxes. This calculated net pay generates a complete residual statement linked back to its Cycle 1 origin. Embedding this formula directly into the pipeline eliminates the need for manual lookups or external calculators. We run into a structural problem: how to account for unions that operate on conflicting triggers for payment. This matrix shows distinct trigger parameters. SAG-AFTRA triggers payment based on reuse outside original markets, whereas the WGA requires a calculation based on revenue receipts. Meanwhile, the DGA operates on fixed schedule triggers, while IATSE requires specific viewership milestone performance metrics. UPP accommodates this by abstracting these rigid union rules into configurable database parameters that act as automatic filters on all usage data. Once a final residual is accurately calculated, an automated physical and digital delivery system immediately takes over the distribution. A smart auto-batching function groups the statements and generates the required PDF manifests, like Schedule F, for each specific union. Proper database parameterization makes union compliance an automatic byproduct of the data pipeline. Wrapping a project introduces the final phase of the pipeline, project closeout. Traditionally, this phase requires massive manual data reconciliation across accounting and production departments. This 8-item closeout checklist replaces manual reconciliation by tracking live against the existing payroll and billing data. The system enforces specific gates, verifying that holding fees are disbursed, union remittances are filed, and tax obligations are met. A budget variance system monitors costs. If actuals deviate more than 5, UpPP closes the concordance gaps by ensuring no data is entered twice. By architecting commercial payroll as a deterministic pipeline, production teams can finally return to managing their productions instead of their spreadsheets.